It's time to begin a new era of Wake Forest football. The 2012 season is quickly approaching, and this year's Demon Deacons will be led by a new head coach, Bob Pecknold. Pecknold will be replacing Jim Grobe, who had been the Deacs head coach since the 2001 season. Jim Grobe was a great Wake Forest coach. In 2006, he led the Demon Deacons to their first ACC title since 1970 by defeating Georgia Tech 9-6 in the ACC championship game. Wake Forest also made their first ever trip to the Orange Bowl that season, where they were defeated by Louisville 24-13. Wake Forest has not had the same kind of success since then. They entered the 2012 season coming off of 3 straight losing seasons. Last year they finished 6-7, made their first bowl appearance since the 2008 season, but lost in the Music City Bowl 23-17 to Mississippi State. That would be the last game coached by Jim Grobe, as he stepped down after the end of the season, to be replaced by Bob Pecknold. Pecknold, a 32-year-old Winston-Salem native and Wake Forest alum, played wide receiver for the Demon Deacons, played under Jim Grobe his senior year, graduated after the end of the 2001 season, and has been on the Wake Forest coaching staff since then. He's going to look to keep the same sort of strong, disciplined, hard-working Wake Forest culture that Jim Grobe put into place during his time. It is a dream come true for Bob Pecknold, and he could not be more excited for this opportunity. Wake Forest is a private university in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, founded in 1834. The school first fielded a football team in 1888. Wake Forest is one of the original members of the Atlantic Coast Conference, better known as the ACC, which was founded in 1953. Wake Forest would likely be considered the underdogs of the ACC. They are the smallest school in the ACC in terms of enrollment, also the smallest school of any of the Power 5 conferences, and one of the smallest schools in the entire FBS. On the football field, Wake Forest has the worst all-time winning percentage of all ACC schools, with an all-time record of 420 wins, 609 losses, and 33 ties. Wake Forest has won 2 ACC football titles in their history, in 1970 and in 2006. Wake Forest has never been ranked nationally in the top 10 in program history. The experts aren't expecting much success at all from the Demon Deacons this year, but the team has been working very hard to get ready for this season, to hopefully turn things around for the football program and to surprise some people. Very excited to get the Dynasty started. Let's first go over the settings and rules of the Dynasty. Starting with the settings, these are the settings the entire Dynasty will be played on. These settings will never change. Heisman skill and recruiting, 7-minute quarters, 0 speed threshold. And here are the penalty settings. And the sliders. User sliders here. And the computer sliders. Once again, these settings will never change throughout the entire Dynasty. Now, for building future Demon Deacon teams, recruiting will be handled entirely by the CPU. I will have no part in recruiting at the beginning of each year, just a one-time sim into the season, no created recruits, no interaction with recruits, handled entirely by the CPU. The only way I can help with getting good players is by having success on the field. Trying to build up the program that way would entice more players to come. That's how recruiting will work. For team management, there are certain speed limits on players, speed limits by position. That is only a rule for our Wake Forest teams, not for teams who will be playing. But the speed limits by positions are as followed. Quarterback cannot exceed 80 speed. Halfback cannot exceed 88. Fullback cannot exceed 82. Wide receiver cannot exceed 90. Tight end cannot exceed 84. Defensive end cannot exceed 74. Defensive tackle cannot exceed 64. Linebacker cannot exceed 84. Punt returner cannot exceed 88. And kick returner cannot exceed 88. I will check the roster at the start of each season to make sure no players in those positions have exceeded the speed limit. Now, once a game is started, I'm locked into it no matter what. No restarts, do-overs, second chances, nothing like that. This wouldn't be any fun if I could do that. I'd like the challenge, the competitiveness of it all. There are some in-game rules that I must follow as well. Starting with the offense and clock management, I cannot go no huddle until 1 minute or less in the second quarter and 4 minutes or less in the fourth quarter. And when going no huddle, I must choose my next play from the same formation. I cannot chew clock until 30 seconds or less in the second quarter and 2 minutes or less in the fourth quarter. For offensive play selection, I must choose from the list of coach-suggested plays. I may audible, but only to the set list of audibles or the set run or pass audible for that formation. For pass plays, the only time I'm ever allowed to throw to a streak route is when the offense is in the red zone and when there's 10 seconds or less in the fourth quarter. All other times, streak routes must either be changed to a curl, an out, an in, or the receiver must be ignored. For defense I can do what I need to do to get stops for the most part. I choose from coach suggestion, but I'm allowed to audible. If the opposing offense is in no huddle, I can choose my defense from any formation. For special teams, when punting, I cannot move the kick arrow left or right, only up or down. To angle punts, I must rely on the angle of the kick itself with the right stick. It sounds like a lot, but I've been playing this game for a bit, and this is a system that I've put together over time. Works quite well for me. The whole idea is to keep things challenging and as realistic as possible. And I know these rules quite well, so following them will not be any sort of problem. I am very, very pumped up to get this all started. So excited to. We're going to be getting the Dynasty underway in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. That will be our first game of the 2012 season and the first game of the Bob Pecknold era or Wake Forest. Let's go, Deeks!